You keep asking, when will this finally happen? And here's what you don't realize. That question is exactly what's keeping it away. Every time you check if it's here yet, you're actually locking it in the not now category. This isn't some motivational pep talk. This is about how your awareness works with reality at the quantum level. What if the thing you want isn't missing? What if it's already here in possibility, just waiting for you to stop measuring its absence and start recognizing its presence? This video breaks down why waiting is the block, and how shifting from when to now changes everything. You're about to see that the power was never in the timeline, it was always in your measurement.
You've been sitting around hoping for some kind of green light that's never going to show up. And it's not because the universe is playing keep away with you, not because you haven't checked all the boxes yet, not because the stars haven't aligned properly, but because this whole idea of waiting for the perfect moment is actually what's blocking that moment from showing up in the first place. This isn't some rah-rah speech trying to shove you into doing something before you're ready. This is about understanding how your awareness and the way things show up in your life actually work together every single time you catch yourself thinking, when is this finally going to happen? You're doing something really specific in your mind. You're taking what you want and pushing it out into some imaginary tomorrow, treating it like it's a delivery that's somewhere on a truck heading your way. This way of thinking feels completely normal, feels like you're just being realistic about how time works, but it's actually built on a pretty big misunderstanding of what time really is and how the way you relate to it shapes what can actually happen in your world. Linear time, this sense that there's stuff that already happened, stuff happening right now, and stuff that's going to happen later, is something our awareness creates. It's a helpful story that lets you understand cause and effect, plan out what you're going to do, and get on the same page with other people who see time the same way. But quantum physicists found something pretty wild about this whole setup when they started measuring what goes on at the tiniest levels of reality. At the quantum level, particles don't sit in specific states until someone actually looks at them. Before you measure it, an electron isn't sitting at point A or point B. It exists in what's called superposition, meaning it's kind of in all possible spots at the same time. The math doesn't describe this as us just not knowing where the electron really is. It describes it as genuinely being in multiple states all at once. Only when someone observes it does this cloud of possibilities snap into one single, definite location. What makes this matter for your when question is what happens when physicists try to measure not just where things are, but when things happen. Studies have shown that quantum events don't follow the strict time order that regular physics thought they did. Depending on how you set up your measurement, you can see effects that seem to happen before their causes. Future measurements can actually influence past states in ways that mess with our gut feeling that time only flows one direction from past to future. This isn't just weird science stuff with no real-world meaning. It's revealing something about how we experience time. The linear flow of time that seems so obviously real is actually something that emerges from how consciousness takes measurements on quantum probability fields. The past exists as probability waves that your memory has already measured and locked in. The present exists as the collapse that's happening right now through your continuous observation. The future exists as probability distributions that haven't collapsed yet, but are already being shaped by your current state of consciousness. When you ask, when will this happen? You're doing a specific kind of measurement on the probability field. You're collapsing the potential outcome into a future category, putting it in the doesn't exist now, but might exist later box. This collapse is real. It has actual effects on the probability distribution. By measuring the outcome as future instead of present, you're helping to keep it as uncollapsed potential rather than current reality. This explains something you've probably felt but couldn't quite put into words. The things you really want badly and keep thinking about in terms of when they'll arrive seem to stay just out of reach forever. Not because you're screwing something up and chasing them, not because you haven't hustled hard enough, or visualized clearly enough, or said enough affirmations, but because the whole structure of wanting something in the future and constantly checking if it's here yet is a measurement process that keeps collapsing it as absent now, but possible later. The probability wave keeps getting collapsed into the same shape. Not yet. Still waiting. Maybe soon. Each time you check if the thing has shown up, each time you feel it missing, each time you push it forward into some imagined future when everything will be right, you're taking a measurement that makes real its continued non-existence in your present experience. This isn't about positive thinking or law of attraction. Those ideas assume you're trying to influence some external universe through the power of your thoughts. But the mechanism is deeper than that. Your consciousness isn't separate from reality, trying to push it around from the outside. Your consciousness is reality taking measurements on itself. And those measurements help decide which versions of possibility become actual experience. The question, when, has embedded in it a split between the one watching and the thing being watched, between you as someone waiting and the outcome as something external that will show up. This split is the measurement that keeps collapsing the probability field into exactly that shape: you waiting, outcome missing. The more desperately you ask when, the more strongly you reinforce the measurement that answers not yet. But here's the thing, there's another way to take the measurement. Instead of seeing yourself as someone waiting for an outcome to arrive in the future, you can recognize yourself as the process through which possibilities collapse into reality. Not waiting for some future state, but noticing which parts of current possibility are already available to be made real through your observation. This sounds abstract until you look at your direct experience. Right now, as you're reading these words, thousands of possibilities exist in superposition around you. Actions you could take, perspectives you could hold, opportunities you could see, abilities you could express. Most stay uncollapsed, existing as potential but not made real in your awareness. Not because they're missing, but because your attention hasn't measured them yet. When you're stuck asking when, your attention is pointed towards some imagined future. You're taking measurements on time projections instead of present possibilities. But the second you stop asking when and start noticing what's actually available right now, your measurement apparatus changes. You start collapsing different parts of the probability field. The shift happens immediately, not because the universe suddenly changed, but because your consciousness stopped collapsing future-focused measurements and started collapsing present-focused ones. The possibilities were always there in superposition. Your measurement decides which ones become actual in your experience. In the comments, drop one word that captures what you're choosing to step into right now. Maybe it's trust, maybe it's clarity, maybe it's power, maybe it's something totally your own. Let that word be a small but powerful declaration, a signal like a quantum seed you're planting not just in this space, but in the quantum field itself. Think about learning something new. At first, you can't do it. You practice over and over, measuring your performance against what you want to be able to do, noticing the gap between current ability and where you want to be. This gap measurement keeps collapsing your state as not yet skilled. You're waiting to become good at it, asking, when will I be able to do this? With each failed attempt, reinforcing the answer, not yet. But then, something shifts, usually not gradually, but suddenly. One moment you can't do the thing, the next moment you can. What changed? The physical neural networks were building throughout the practice time, but the felt experience of ability transforms in a sudden jump when your consciousness stops measuring yourself as someone trying to learn and recognizes yourself as someone who can do this. The measurement changes from future projection to present recognition. The skill was approaching a threshold throughout the practice period, existing in superposition between can't and can. But it collapses into actual ability the moment your observation shifts from measuring the gap to recognizing the capability. This is why confidence seems to come before competence in so many areas. It's not delusional self-belief coming before actual skill. It's the measurement shift from future hope to present recognition that allows the probability wave to collapse from potential into reality. You don't become confident because you became skilled. The shift into measuring yourself as already capable is part of what allows the skill to collapse into your experienced reality. The same mechanism works in every area where you've been asking when: relationships, career opportunities, creative expression, financial abundance, inner peace. As long as you're measuring these as future outcomes you're waiting for, your observation keeps collapsing them into that exact shape. Outcomes you're waiting for, currently absent, possibly arriving later. The moment you stop asking when isn't about forcing premature action or pretending you have what you don't. It's about recognizing that your time-based measurement is itself part of what decides whether something exists in your experience as actual or just possible. When you stop projecting the outcome into an imagined future and start noticing how parts of it already exist in your present field of possibilities, your measurement apparatus shifts. You're no longer collapsing absence, you're collapsing presence. Not necessarily the full manifestation, but the actual current possibility that exists right now to be engaged with. And engaging with present possibility has completely different effects on the probability field than waiting for future outcomes. This is where most people get confused by teachings about presence or living in the now. They interpret it as giving up on what they want, abandoning goals, or becoming passive. But that's not what's being pointed to. Goals and desires are fine. They help point your attention towards certain areas of possibility space. The problem isn't having preferences for how things unfold. The problem is the measurement process that treats preferred outcomes as absent now, but possible later. When you recognize that every desired outcome is actually a present possibility, existing in superposition, waiting to be collapsed through the right observation and action, your whole relationship to manifestation changes. You're not waiting for things to happen. You're noticing what's already available to be made real and participating in the collapse process through attention and engagement. Consider financial abundance as an example, since it's something a lot of people ask when questions about. When will I have enough money? When will financial stress end? When will prosperity arrive? Each asking reinforces the measurement that collapses your financial state as currently not enough, with abundance pushed into an uncertain future. But what actually makes up financial abundance? At the quantum level, it's not some fixed thing waiting to arrive. It's a setup of possibilities involving value exchange, resource flow, opportunity recognition, and ability expression. Most of these elements exist in superposition around you right now. Skills you could use, value you could offer, exchanges you could start, opportunities you could recognize they exist as uncollapsed possibility because your attention is focused on measuring the gap between current state and desired future rather than noticing present potential. The moment you stop asking, when will abundance arrive? And start noticing, what value can I provide right now? What abilities do I currently have? What opportunities exist in my present environment? Your measurement shifts. You're no longer collapsing absence of abundance. You're collapsing presence of possibility and capability. This doesn't magically create money from nothing, but it radically changes which parts of your probability field get made real through your observation and following action. The same applies to relationships. Asking, when will I meet the right person, collapses your relational state as currently alone with partnership pushed into uncertain future. But partnership isn't a thing that arrives. It's a possibility that exists wherever you are, requiring specific qualities of openness, authenticity, and engagement to make real. Those qualities exist in superposition right now. Your consciousness can collapse them into expression or keep them as just potential based on where your measurement attention is pointed. Stop asking when you'll meet someone and start noticing opportunities for genuine connection that exist in your current environment. The measurement shift isn't just word games. It's an actual change in which parts of the probability field your consciousness is collapsing. You move from measuring absence to recognizing presence, from waiting for future delivery to engaging with current possibility. Before we keep going, I want to invite you into something real. If you've been feeling like this is starting to click, and if part of you is waking up to your own power, tap like if you just had an aha moment, because like attracts like, and subscribe. Stay with this space. Grow with us. The mechanism extends to internal states. When will I feel peaceful? When will anxiety end? When will I be confident? Each question measures your current state as lacking the desired quality, with that quality existing somewhere in the future waiting to arrive. But peace, confidence, and calm aren't future states. They're present possibilities, existing in superposition with anxiety, doubt, and stress. Your consciousness can collapse either set of possibilities based on where attention directs the measurement process. Asking, "When will I feel peaceful?" directs attention toward measuring the absence of peace, which collapses the probability field in exactly that shape. Noticing peace is available right now as a possible collapse of my current experience directs attention toward that part of the superposition, increasing the chance that your next observation will make it real. This is why meditation practices work when they work. Not because you're achieving some special state through effort, but because sitting still and observing your direct experience shifts your measurement from future projection to present recognition. You stop measuring the gap between current stress and desired calm. You start noticing that both stress and calm exist at the same time in your experience, until observation collapses one or the other into the dominant one. The more you observe without trying to change anything, the more you recognize that your state isn't a fixed thing, but an ongoing collapse of quantum possibilities. And that recognition itself shifts the probability distribution. The desperate need to be different, which was keeping the collapse pattern you wanted to change going, relaxes. And in that relaxation, different parts of the probability field become available to make real. This isn't passive acceptance of unwanted situations. It's recognition of where your actual power exists. You can't directly control which quantum events happen at the microscopic level, but you can train your attention to take different measurements, to collapse different parts of the probability field, to recognize present possibility instead of projecting future outcomes. The training isn't complicated, but it needs consistency. Every time you notice yourself asking when, pause and redirect attention not to positive affirmations about the future, but to present recognition. What part of what you desire already exists in superposition in your current experience? What possibility is available right now to be engaged with? What ability do you currently have that could be expressed? These aren't consolation prizes while you wait for the real outcome. They're the actual collapse points where possibility transforms into reality. The reason you want the future outcome is because you think it will give you certain experiences or abilities, but those experiences and abilities exist in present possibility right now. Your measurement has been collapsing them as absent because your attention was pointed toward future projection rather than present recognition. When you stop asking when, you stop reinforcing the measurement that collapses absence. When you start recognizing present possibility, you begin collapsing reality. Not through force or positive thinking, but through a shift in where your consciousness points its measurement apparatus. The universe doesn't answer when with a timeline. It answers when with the question itself is the barrier. The moment you stop asking is the moment the measurement shifts. Reality has always been answering now, but now stays invisible as long as your consciousness is measuring not yet. The transition happens immediately because it's not about time passing or conditions changing. It's a shift in measurement. Quantum collapses don't happen gradually. They're sudden jumps from superposition to definite state. Your experience transforms not because you waited long enough or worked hard enough, but because your observation shifted from one collapse pattern to another. This is what makes the shift feel miraculous when it happens. One moment you're stuck in waiting. Next moment you're engaging with present possibility. and the whole landscape of your experience has transformed. Not because anything external changed, but because your consciousness stopped collapsing future projection and started collapsing present recognition. The desired outcomes don't necessarily show up instantly. Physical reality has momentum, cause and effect chains that unfold over time, processes that need step-by-step development. But your relationship to those processes transforms completely. You're no longer waiting for them to finish. You're participating in them actively, collapsing possibilities into reality through continuous, present-focused observation and engagement. This participation creates completely different probability paths than waiting does. When you're measuring absence and asking when, your following actions come from the collapsed state of lack. Everything you do is aimed at filling a gap, making up for not having enough, chasing what you don't have. These actions have certain probability distributions for outcomes. When you're recognizing present possibility and engaging with available opportunity, your actions come from the collapsed state of capability and resource. Everything you do is aimed at expressing what you can, offering value you have, engaging with options that exist. These actions have completely different probability distributions for outcomes. The combined effect of thousands of actions taken from capability rather than lack creates momentum in entirely different directions through probability space. Not because you believed more positively or affirmed more strongly, but because your measurement shifted from collapsing absence to collapsing presence, which changed the starting conditions from which each following action came out. You've probably seen this in others. People who seemed stuck for years suddenly transformed their whole life situation. Not because they finally waited long enough and the universe rewarded their patience, but because something shifted in how they were measuring their reality. They stopped asking, "When will things change?" and started recognizing, "What can I engage with right now?" The shift looks sudden from the outside, but it's the result of attention training that gradually changed their measurement patterns until a threshold was crossed. The probability field they were moving through transformed not through external events but through internal recognition that present possibilities have always been available, just uncollapsed, because attention was pointed elsewhere. You can speed up this shift intentionally, not through more intense waiting or more desperate wanting, but through systematic redirection of attention. Every time the question, "when?" comes up, treat it as a signal that your measurement is collapsing future projection. Pause, breathe, redirect attention to present possibility. What exists right now in superposition that could be collapsed into reality through your observation and engagement? The practice isn't about pushing down the question or pretending you don't care about outcomes. It's about recognizing that the question itself is a measurement that collapses exactly what you don't want, absence of the desired state. By redirecting to present possibility, you train your consciousness to take different measurements, to collapse different parts of the probability field. Over time, the question "when" comes up less often, not because you stopped caring about outcomes, but because your default measurement shifted. Your consciousness learned to recognize present possibility instead of projecting future outcomes. And with that shift, your whole experience of time and manifestation transforms. Reality always answers now, but that answer stays invisible as long as your consciousness is measuring not yet. The moment you stop asking, when the moment your measurement shifts to present recognition is, the moment reality's answer becomes visible in your direct experience. This isn't a promise of instant gratification or magical manifestation. Physical processes still unfold through time. Cause and effect chains still need step-by-step development. But your participation in those processes shifts from waiting to engaging, from measuring absence to collapsing presence. And that shift changes everything about how possibilities become real in your experience. In the comments, share one small action you're committing to today, something that anchors you into your new way of being. It could be as simple as breathe, or trust, or open. Your word matters. Your action matters, because you matter. The quantum mechanics behind this stay precise. Conscious observation collapses probability waves into definite states. The time orientation of your observation decides which setups get collapsed. Future-focused measurement keeps outcomes as potential, not yet actual. Present-focused measurement allows outcomes to become real through your engagement with available possibility. Stop asking when. Start recognizing now. The shift is immediate because it's not a change in external circumstances. It's a change in measurement. And that change doesn't need permission, perfect conditions, or more preparation. It needs recognition that your consciousness is already taking measurements that decide what becomes actual in your experience. And those measurements can shift the moment you notice them and choose to point them differently. Reality has always been answering your question. The answer is now. The only barrier stopping you from experiencing that answer is the measurement pattern that keeps collapsing, not yet. Stop taking that measurement. Start recognizing present possibility. The transformation isn't coming. It's already here in superposition, waiting only for your attention to collapse it into your experienced reality. What makes this recognition especially powerful is understanding the relationship between coherence and collapse. In quantum systems, coherence refers to keeping superposition going, the ability of multiple states to exist at the same time without interference causing early collapse. Your consciousness works through a similar principle. When you ask when, you're bringing decoherence into the probability field. You're creating interference between your current state and the desired future state that forces the system to collapse into separation rather than integration. The anxiety that comes with waiting is actually a form of measurement-induced decoherence. Each moment of wondering, has it happened yet? Sends ripples through the probability field that disturb the coherent superposition of present and desired state. It's like checking on a quantum experiment too often. The measurement itself stops the thing you're trying to observe from developing naturally. The quantum Zeno effect shows this exactly. If you measure a quantum system often enough, you can actually freeze it in its starting state, stopping any change or transition from happening. Your impatient checking, your anxious measuring, your constant evaluation of whether the desired outcome has shown up yet creates exactly this effect in your experience. The very act of frequently measuring, is it here yet? Locks the system into the not yet state, stopping the natural evolution of possibilities into reality. This isn't a metaphor. Your attention works as a measurement tool, and frequent measurement of absence reinforces absence through the quantum Zeno mechanism. The alternative isn't to stop caring or to pretend you don't have preferences. It's to allow coherence by pointing attention toward engagement rather than evaluation. When you're genuinely absorbed in present activity, when you're expressing current ability, when you're engaging with available opportunity, you're not taking the measurement. Has the future arrived yet? You're participating in the process through which future possibilities naturally collapse into present reality without the interference of anxious checking. Athletes understand this instinctively when they talk about being in the zone. That state isn't achieved through effort or technique alone. It emerges when attention shifts completely into present engagement, when measurement of, am I performing well, stops, and consciousness collapses fully into the activity itself. Performance transforms immediately, not because skills suddenly increased, but because the measurement apparatus stopped evaluating and started participating. The coherent superposition of athlete and activity collapses into unified expression rather than separated observation. The same mechanism works in creative flow. You can't force it through intense focus or disciplined trying. It emerges when attention stops measuring, am I being creative, and instead collapses completely into engagement with the creative medium. The separation between you creating and the thing being created dissolves. What stays is unified process where consciousness expresses through form, without the decoherence brought in by self-conscious evaluation. This reveals something crucial about identity and transformation. As long as you measure yourself as someone who doesn't have yet but wants, you're collapsing a specific identity setup. someone separate from the desired state, looking toward it from a distance, hoping it will arrive. This collapsed identity has certain probability distributions for what actions feel possible, what opportunities appear available, what outcomes seem likely. The identity itself creates limits on which parts of the probability field can become real in your experience. But identity isn't fixed. It's a measurement pattern, a way your consciousness repeatedly collapses self-observation into familiar shapes. The person you experience yourself being right now is one possible collapse of the infinite superposition of what you could be experiencing as self. When you stop asking, "When will I become X?" and start recognizing what parts of X are available to be expressed right now, you're not waiting for identity transformation. You're taking different identity measurements that collapse alternate setups of self. This is visible in how people describe major life transitions. They often report that they became a different person almost overnight. Something shifted, and suddenly they were operating from completely different assumptions about who they are and what they're capable of. What actually happened wasn't that a new person gradually developed and finally reached completion. What happened was that their attention stopped measuring themselves through one identity pattern and began collapsing a different identity pattern that existed in superposition all along. The new identity was always available as a possible self-setup, but as long as measurement attention kept collapsing the familiar pattern, the alternate possibilities stayed as uncollapsed potential. The moment attention shifted, the measurement pattern changed, and a different self-setup became real immediately. The person didn't gradually transform. The measurement of person transformed, collapsing different parts of what person could be into what person actually experiences being. This explains why external circumstances often shift dramatically after internal identity shifts. It's not that the universe magically rearranged to match your new self-concept. It's that different identity setups have access to different areas of the probability field. When you're measuring yourself as incapable, that collapsed identity can only engage with opportunities that match incapability. When measurement shifts to capable identity, you suddenly recognize opportunities that were present in superposition all along, but invisible to the previous identity measurement. The opportunities didn't arrive when you changed. They were always there in the probability field. Your shifted measurement began collapsing them into recognition and engagement where your previous measurement collapsed only their absence. Reality didn't change. Your measurement of reality changed, which changed what parts of reality's superposition became real in your experience. Understanding this transforms your relationship to obstacles and challenges. When you hit difficulty, while asking, "When will this get easier?" you're measuring the situation as an obstacle to be overcome eventually. This measurement collapses the experience as struggle with ease pushed into uncertain future. The difficulty continues not because the situation is inherently difficult, but because your measurement keeps collapsing it as such. But the situation exists in superposition. It holds both difficulty and opportunity, both obstacle and invitation, both problem and teacher. Which part collapses into your experience depends on your measurement. When you stop asking, "When will this be over?" and start recognizing, "What is this situation making available right now?" your measurement shifts. You're no longer collapsing obstacle. You're collapsing possibility. The situation hasn't changed, but what parts of it become actual in your experience has transformed completely. This isn't reframing or positive spin. Those approaches try to change your interpretation of a fixed situation. But the situation isn't fixed. It's superposition of multiple realities happening at once. Your measurement decides which version becomes real. By shifting measurement from "When will difficulty end?" to "What possibility is available now?" you're not reinterpreting the same reality. You're collapsing different reality from the same superposition. The practical use extends to social dynamics. When you meet someone new, infinite versions of that interaction exist in superposition, connection or disconnection, trust or caution, depth or surface, understanding or misunderstanding. Most people's attention automatically measures through habitual social patterns, collapsing familiar interaction setups, regardless of what else might be possible. Their measurement apparatus has been trained to collapse certain social realities and stay blind to others. But when you become aware of the measurement process, you can point attention differently. Instead of automatically measuring, will they like me? Am I making a good impression? When will I know if this is going well? You can recognize the superposition. Multiple interaction possibilities exist at the same time. Your measurement helps decide which becomes real by pointing attention toward genuine curiosity about the other person, toward authentic expression of your own experience, toward present engagement rather than future evaluation. You collapse different social realities from the probability field. The interaction transforms not because you used better social techniques, but because your measurement shifted. Different parts of the infinite possible interactions between these two consciousness systems became real through different observation patterns. The relationship wasn't predetermined. It emerged through the mutual measurement process. Both participants took on the superposition of possible interactions. This reveals the participatory nature of reality that quantum mechanics showed, but that most people haven't worked into their lived experience. You're not a passive observer of a pre-existing fixed world. You're an active participant in an ongoing measurement process that helps decide which parts of infinite possibility become real experience. The world isn't happening to you. It's happening through you, with you, as you, in continuous co-creative measurement with all other consciousness taking similar measurements. The question, when, comes from the old way of seeing things, where you're a separate observer waiting for external reality to deliver outcomes. But that way of seeing contradicts what quantum mechanics revealed about observation and reality. You're not separate from what you're observing. Your observation is part of the process creating what gets observed. The observer-observed distinction is itself a measurement that collapses separation into experience. But it's only one possible measurement. Unity is equally available in superposition, waiting for different measurement to make it real. When you stop asking, when will I experience unity, peace, fulfillment, success, connection? You stop measuring separation between current state and desired state. That measurement of separation was keeping separation in your experience. Not because separation is ultimately real, but because your consciousness kept collapsing it as actual through repeated measurement. The moment measurement shifts to recognizing what's already present, unity becomes real immediately. Not because it arrived, but because your observation stopped collapsing separation and began collapsing what was always there in superposition. This is why spiritual traditions emphasize present moment awareness, not as a moral rule or discipline to develop, but as recognition of where reality exists. The past is memory probability waves already collapsed and stored. The future is projection probability distributions not yet collapsed, only now holds actual collapse happening in real time. When your attention measures past or future, you're measuring memories and projections rather than reality. When attention measures now, you're participating in the actual collapse process that creates experienced reality. The instruction, be here now, isn't about achieving some special state. It's about recognizing that here now is the only place-time where consciousness actually performs its measurement function on probability fields. Past and future exist as mental constructs useful for planning and learning, but not locations where reality is happening. By pointing measurement attention toward now, you're placing your consciousness where it actually has power to influence which possibilities become real. Stop asking when, because the question places your measurement attention in imagined future, where no actual measurement can happen. Start recognizing now, because this is where measurement happens, where consciousness collapses possibility into reality. where you have actual participation in deciding what becomes real in your experience. The transformation you're waiting for isn't coming. It's here, existing in superposition with your current experience, waiting only for your measurement to shift from future projection to present recognition. Reality's answer has always been now. The universe is offering you direct participation in the ongoing creation of experienced reality through your measurement attention. Stop measuring, when will this happen, and start engaging with what is happening. The shift is immediate because it's not about time, it's dimensional. Different measurement pattern, different collapsed reality. Same probability field, different reality. The power isn't in forcing outcomes through will. The power is in recognizing that your consciousness is already taking measurements that decide outcomes. And those measurements can be redirected from collapse patterns that keep waiting going to collapse patterns that enable engagement. The choice has always been yours. The time has always been now. The only question is whether your measurement will continue collapsing, not yet, or begin collapsing what's already here. Make sure you share this video with your loved ones. Remember, you're not just sharing, you're spreading awareness that could shift someone's entire reality today. If you watched till now, you're not here by accident. Like to anchor it, comment what clicked for you, share this gift with one person, and subscribe, because you're ready for what's next.